Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with J.J. Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, J.J. Kitchen. Got a good show on tap for you guys today. Obviously, the first scrimmage of the year so far happened on Saturday. First real scrimmage where they went really full contact, the entire scrimmage. Some news and notes out of that. Some of it's pretty kind of obvious that you'll eventually see what we expect this time of year, but some players really popping out on the screen. Some guys really popping out so far, and some guys that just need to do a little bit better for where they are currently in the process of spring camp. Roughly now 6 practices in. I guess technically the 15th practice this year obviously is the spring game. So 14, they got really 8 practices left until the spring game. So really almost halfway through camp, which is pretty crazy to think about. 2 weeks remaining before the spring game on April 12th at 1 o'clock at Acrisure Stadium. Will certainly be a good time. We'll go into that. Another great item today, Jon Gruden gets a care package from the University of Pittsburgh. For the people that don't know, Jon Gruden in the day under Coach Hackett was the wide receivers coach at the University of Pittsburgh. But I think there's a larger point and larger idea at play. And one of the many reasons why I was pushing for Pitt to send a care package, a lot of swag, Pitt swag to Jon Gruden over Barstool Sports. We'll go into that tonight. And then obviously you always have the Q&A, which I always love to answer questions from all of you guys. As there's plenty of comments that always come in. Then down below, if you haven't seen it before, the Super Chat button's down below if you want to get your question up on the screen and ahead of everybody else's. That way I can see it, make a small donation to the podcast, and get your name up on the screen. Guys, before we get into it, the show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA 15102. Again, tremendous people, number of different selections of Colonial Beer, your heavier beers or lighter lagers. Plenty of different options. You guys have seen me post the Colonial Beer pictures on Twitter. If you haven't, head over there to see the numerous selection that they have. 2 great Pitt men, 2 individuals who are season ticket holders and Pitt athletics supporters, but especially to football, major supporters to the university, create a big impact on a number of different levels at Pitt. And anytime you can help out a small business, it certainly helps. Make sure you go see my friends at Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA 15102. The show is also sponsored by Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson. Call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Me personally, I use Brian myself. Brian is an individual who comes from a great family and has a great family, does a lot of work community-wise, a lot of volunteer work, a lot of community service. He's a leader in his community, no matter where he's been. That's how he's been his whole life. But the great thing about Brian is a smaller law firm, unlike the larger law firms, cares about you, the individual. Doesn't treat you as a number, but treats you as the individual and the processes and the outcome that you need. He asks the right questions and wants to get to know you and how to make your problem become his solution. He wants to make sure he has the best answers for you. And if he doesn't have the answers for you, he'll make sure he guides you through the entire process, gets you the answers you need, and make sure you have the outcome that you so desire. Again, call Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Again, call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Lastly, the show is also sponsored by the K Collection, coffee by Austin Kitchen, my younger brother, which his website is at www.thekingscraft.com. The K Collection, it's a black bag, has a backwards K, pretty cool design for him being a pitcher with the Seattle Mariners. Backwards K, obviously, which is a looking strikeout. A great brand. I've obviously taken it to my office downtown. Had all my coworkers try it. They love it. We've certainly had a number of great success out in California, the West Coast, from Las Vegas all the way down. It's been a great opening so far. But Austin is truly one of the best. And if you're looking for coffee, me personally, I love the espresso, the AK Espresso. I just drink it straight up the way it is. Leave it as is. It gets me going in the morning. All I need is 1 cup of that, and I'm ready to go in the morning to make sure I'm productive at work. Make sure you go over to www.thekingscraft.com. Again, Austin, my younger brother, we both went to Mount Lebanon. A tremendous athlete at Mount Lebanon. Austin won a national title at Coastal Carolina for baseball. Did a tremendous job there and went through every level of professional baseball, independent, low A, high A, double A, triple A, and then the major leagues starting out in last year. Make sure, again, the K Collection, which is a tremendous, tremendous coffee, and I'm not a coffee person, so it's incredible that I even like it. Tells you enough about it. The K Collection coffee brand by Austin Kitchen. Again, go to www.thekingscraft.com and get the K Collection. As we dive into it here today, the questions are already coming in. Will be a good night, to say the least. Again, if you want your question, a lot of questions come in. So anytime there's a super chat, it goes right to the top. You want to use the super chat button down below. Make sure you click that sign, make a small donation to the podcast, and jump on it. WRW Pitt, smash the like button and subscribe and join Alliance 412. Amen, WRW Pitt. If you haven't done so to this show, subscribe, like it. It's free. It takes 2 seconds. And obviously, join Alliance 412. What's the skinny on the scrimmage? Who balled out? Who starred? Who was outstanding? Well, we're going to really dive into it here, and I think this is a great way to go. Real quick here. Jonathan Lewis, what's up, bro? Hope Pitt has a good season this year. Thank you, Jonathan. Truly one of the best in the YouTube spaces. Jonathan covers Alabama. He does a great job with that, and I've been on his show a number of times. Incredible individual. So the skinny on the scrimmage. As you can imagine, at this time of year, it was certainly a one-sided event for the majority of the time. The offense did have a number of great plays. Scored 3 to 4 touchdowns from what I heard in the game. Had a number of good drives there, but for the majority of the day, it was really owned by the defense. 2 interceptions by Eli Holstein and 2 picks by Julian Duggar. The defense was really outstanding on a number of different levels. You guys probably saw the tweet that I posted up. Let me see here if I can find it. Let's see here. Let's see. I know I had it up here on the screen. I had it in my saved notes here for the show. Probably find it right here. The number of players certainly showed out, to say the least, in the scrimmage, and the majority of them obviously on defense. One thing was really good in the scrimmage. The defensive line really produced at a high level. Was able to create pressure with 4-man pressure, but even up to 6-man pressure. As you can imagine, Pitt loves to certainly circulate, one, the personnel up front, but 2, the descriptions and personalities in their blitz packages, being able to be very aggressive. You'll see between 4 to 6, potentially sometimes even more than that when it comes to pressures, which is pretty crazy to think about. Let's see if I can find it here. Two players on offense, again, that I had here, Kenny Johnson and Jules Goff. Kenny Johnson, who will be wide receiver number 1 this year for Pitt for sure. He had a touchdown in this game. Jules Goff had a touchdown in this game through the ground. But then when you look at the turnovers, Kyle Lewis had a turnover, Javon McIntyre had a turnover, and Cruz Brookins also had a turnover. Let's see, I had one more guy here. Let's see here. A number of guys making plays here. Ryan Bayer had himself a really good day up front at the tackle position, right tackle position. From my understanding, it sounds like a number of different breakdowns in terms of the offensive line when it came sometimes on 4-man pressures. With it being early in camp, it's what you expect this time of year. Obviously, you want that stuff to be corrected as the spring goes on. So when you go into summer OTAs and during the fall camp, you have all your guys in from the transfer portal. Everyone knows the offense to where you're really throwing yourself at a high level to that point. But right now, the offense is behind the defense, which makes a lot of sense onto a number of different levels because Pat Narduzzi and Pitt, their defense has not changed in 11 years. This is the second year of this offense. Me personally, I want to see this get corrected a lot faster. Hopefully next Saturday when they go into their second spring practice and their second spring scrimmage, we see a lot more and hear a lot more progression from the offensive side of the football, which I would fully expected. The same thing happened last year. I think because, one, you have so many different new guys up front. Jeff Percy in there, Keith Guvia, sound to be like they're on the left side, the left tackle and left guard position. Two guys working their way into the immediate lineup. Kendall Stanley working their way in there. Ryan Baer at the right-hand side. BJ Williams back at the right guard. At center, you still have, why am I forgetting his name up front? I'm forgetting his name up front, which is horrible. I always do this for the center positions. But regardless, they're looking in better up front. But yesterday's game on Saturday did not go extremely well on the offensive side of the football. Again, Eli had a number of great throws in this game. Julian Duggar did too, but too many mistakes on really both of the quarterbacks at this point. And it's not just the quarterbacks at the end of the day. It comes to everybody up front. I think they're working themselves in at this point. It's only the first scrimmage of the camp season. It's not a really big deal. I expected the defense to be in front of the offense because of a number of new guys at the wide receiver position, the offensive line. That kind of stuff will take time to get there, but you want to see it getting going faster. You want to see this next scrimmage next Saturday go much better. And you want to see it get it back on track to where the spring game happens. And then when summer OTAs get here, everyone's really on the same page to this point. But good to see, of course, when you have Kyle Lewis, who's returning All-American at the linebacker position. He had himself a good game. Braylon Lovelace did a really good job in the middle of that defense. He did really well. Javon McIntyre, Cruz Brookins. He's going to be that guy that really breaks out, in my opinion, this year. And I've said it before on the show here. Cruz just seems as if you saw the flashes last year. And again, you had Javon McIntyre and Donovan McMillan, who were your starters last year. Donovan McMillan's off to the NFL. You expect Cruz Brookins to fill into that spot. I think it's a no-brainer. I think he's going to have one hell of a year, Cruz Brookins. You have Javon McIntyre, Cruz Brookins, Jason Bonsu, the transfer from Ohio State. He'll be at the safety position, and Jesse Anderson. So you really have four safeties for another consecutive year where you're looking at guys who can produce at a high level, be able to rotate in there, especially when you have a number of different guys in these newer offenses where everyone's moving at a high pace. It's really good to have four guys back there, and we're now back into a system again where you've got four corners. Rashawn Murray had himself a really good game, a transfer coming in from the University of California, PA, Division II All-American. You want to see that continue. I think that was really the biggest question mark for me is, okay, the guy is obviously an All-American, so it's great that he's a tremendous football player, but does it translate to this level? So far it has. I think that the only way that we'll know if it does transfer to this level is when August comes around, late August, and we start that first game against Duquesne. It's Acrisure Stadium, and then game 2 against Central Michigan, and then game 3. In my opinion, game 3, we really won't know what this football team has the potential to look like until week 3. It goes on the road to Milan Puskar Stadium in Morgantown, West Virginia for the backyard brawl, and we'll find out what type of football team we have there. Adversity on the road will be a hostile environment. Something that will really test this football team. And I think that's just kind of how, me personally, I could tell you from top to bottom, this guy looks great now, this guy looks great now. But when you're facing each other, there's only so many things that you can totally notice. It's either one side's doing great and one side's doing bad, or it switches, the other side's doing good and the other side's doing bad. And you're kind of correcting yourself at this point. But that's the challenge these coaches face every day, day in, day out, because even though this player might be doing really good, you have to look at the flip side and say, well, this player on offense didn't do well, or this player on offense is doing well, but this player on defense didn't do well. That's why one of the things I love to see up front in college athletics to come forward pretty soon is what Colorado and Syracuse are doing, where they're actually having combined practices, and they're also doing a scrimmage for their spring game, doing a scrimmage, which I think would be fantastic. Now, the quarterbacks will never get hit in that game. You're obviously worried about injuries. That kind of stuff can get repetitive on a number of different levels. But for me, when I look at it, I think for the coaching staff, for the coaches and like Nebraska and whatnot that are all out there, they can look up they can look up film from anybody and know who's good on this team and who's not. It's not really hard to look into that kind of information. Hell, I mean, I could do it within minutes. It's not very hard. But I would like down the road to where there's a scrimmage for these spring games, because I think it would get a lot more visibility. It would get a lot more time to where people would be able to have a great scrimmage. Personally, I don't think that Pitt needs to do something outlandish where they bring in another Power Four school. You don't need to do that. You want to do something close by. You've got Robert Morris. Obviously, this year you will not have Duquesne there, so where you don't have to watch anything. I know more than likely Pat Narduzzi, with how with how paranoid he is, he's probably would be really concerned about another team coming to Pittsburgh and then Duquesne coming across, or somebody else from on the schedule, West Virginia flying up. Obviously having a bunch of people from those schools come in to watch a spring game, but who knows? But personally, I would love to watch a scrimmage. I like Goff during the run of the scrimmage. Maybe you won't need a running back in the portal. So a number of different things. Me personally, I would still like a bigger back. I think it would be a great offset to what Pitt has. Pitt really has two really good running backs. And also, Boozy's in there. What's his name? Boozy Turner. I think it's Shakarian Turner. He's probably going to be running back number 3 this year. But then again, all three of those guys, Desmond Reed, obviously the smallest guy of the group. But you want a guy that, me personally, you could totally just have a different style of running, where your first two guys, Des Reed and Jules Goff, who I think are great running backs, they're still the same guy. Sometimes you need that different pace running back in there, especially in short yardage. When you're looking to gain a yard, or it's 3rd down and 2, you want that big guy in there, or on a goal line, or just as a change of pace. You're looking for another different guy out of the backfield who's a bigger back that can catch the ball out of the backfield, but also be a threat in the RPO game, to where if you wanted to run it up the middle or run it off tackle, you have that guy in there that can run off tackle or in between the guards and the A gaps, to where you need 2 or 3 yards, you can get it. I would like to see a bigger back, but as of right now, I think it's pretty clear. Desmond Reed's number 1 and Jules Goff's number 2. I mean, those two guys are really doing a good job, and I think they're learning at a really fast pace. At this point, I think they're just waiting for the new additions, the 2 or 3 additions on the offensive line, to catch up in what Pitt's looking for up front. And I expect those to get better and better as the practices go on. Again, just the first scrimmage of the whole year. First scrimmage for a lot of these new guys. I mean, again, there's 14, 15, 16 different new guys coming onto the offensive side. You want to be able to get those guys in there and get repetitions. And in the spring camp right now, it's a lot different than the fall. The fall, you're projecting your players out. You already have who you have. You know who's going to play. You are now in the process of beginning to work on game plans for teams you're going to be facing during the season. In the spring, you're more focused on yourself. Spring camp is really developing the players that you have there now, working more on the fundamentals. As a football coach, I think it's probably more fun to coach your team in the spring, because you're focused on yourself and the fundamentals and what you really coach and what you truly want to be a main factor in what the season looks like. You start in the spring and how you want things to get done, because then in summer OTAs, those players know what they're looking for. But to your point, Adam, I think Goff is a really good running back. They certainly have a 1-2 punch right now. I would still think if a bigger back's out there that they think that could really help them right away, they're certainly gonna take a look at it. And again, that goes for running back, a big back, also tight end. I think Max Hunt could be a guy you watch out for this year. Max Hunt had a number of catches on Saturday. The true freshman tight end out of Florida, a big body, a guy who can really stretch the field in the middle of the field, especially. You're probably looking for you're probably looking at a number of those guys to make big plays. Jake Overman being the guy you're looking for as a starter. Malachi Thomas, Max Hunt, Jake Renda. But don't be shocked if they find a tight end out there that has more experience, to where you don't have to rely on the young guys coming in with no experience. So I think running back, tight end, I wouldn't be shocked if they go for another offensive lineman, especially for O-line depth, or another opportunity to compete up front, or a guy they think they can start offensive line. And then don't be shocked if they do a defensive lineman, defensive end, or a cornerback. I think those are really the two positions on defense they're only looking at, is defensive end, maybe one more defensive end if it makes sense, and one more cornerback, to make sure they have 3 to 4 guys who can rotate in and out of that projection they have during the season, in case there's an injury as well. So on the defensive side, defensive end, cornerback, and on the offensive side of the football, running back, offensive line, and tight end. That's kind of where they're at this point. Everywhere else, they're good at. Let's see here. Got Jonathan. Is there any Whitfield recruits in the 2026 class that we are pushing hard for? I'm assuming so. So, yeah, there's a number. The Timmons kid, from anybody that I've talked to close to the program, the Timmons kid, I think Lawrence Timmons' his son. He's a defensive back. I think Pitt actually lands him. I believe he's up at Pine Richmond, if I'm not mistaken. He's a guy to watch for. Chris Hoke's son, he's over at North Allegheny. Pitt's certainly pushing hard for him. I think he's a tremendous athlete. I think he'd be really good up front. I believe he's an offensive lineman, if I'm not mistaken, offensive line or defensive lineman. I wouldn't be shocked if they land him. Then there's a linebacker, a 4-star linebacker out of Peters Township. Pitt's certainly fighting Penn State, West Virginia, a number of different Power 4 teams, just like with Hoke and Timmons. Those three guys are major assets out of the Whippeal. They're pushing hard for those guys. I think they land all three, in my opinion, for how hard they're pushing for them. But we'll see. I think there's a number of different conversations right now that when you look at the offensive line play so far these last couple of years coming out of the Whippeal, there's been a couple guys here and there. Obviously, Pitt did a good job of coming out with Thomas Jefferson's Shep Turk. Shep Turk was one of those guys, but I think Pitt did a good job of going outside of the spectrum in terms of the Whippeal, because I think the offensive line play in the Whippeal is just not as good as what it once was, like it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I think there's less prospects. Shep Turk was one of those guys you grabbed here. You brought him in. I think he's going to be a really good offensive lineman. He's your old school type of offensive lineman that'll do really good. But right now, three guys that I've been hearing a lot of is, Lawrence Timmons, his son, the DB out of Pine Richland, Chris Hoke's son out of North Allegheny, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, depending upon how Pitt sees him. And then Peters Township, there's a linebacker out of Peters Township that I think could be a really good asset, and he's a 4-star athlete. And there are a number of different players and a number of different teams that are certainly after him. West Virginia and Penn State are really the two high-level ones on that one. And that'll be fun to watch down the stretch. Me personally, again, talk whatever you want or say whatever you say. There was a 4-star running back recently out of West Mifflin that committed to West Virginia. The coaches that I've talked to, not at Pitt, but outside of the Whippeal, in the ACC and the Big Ten, the conversation was they're not sure he's a 4-star athlete anymore. The regression, there was a number of different attributes to regressions last year. They thought he wasn't as good. Penn State certainly went in another direction. Pitt went in another direction. They've already got their running back out of Florida, Thomas. And Thomas has already gotten a number of different players in terms of offers from Florida, University of Florida, University of Oregon, University of Miami. That's going to be a guy that we need to make sure we hold on to. I know Pitt fans were all upset about him committing because there was no offers. Well, Pitt offers him, he commits, and now the whole offer sheet's just coming on to everywhere they go. So continue to watch that. Pitt's been doing a really good job of evaluating talent, and I expect that to continue. But I think that there's just three guys right now that I've been hearing quite a bit about in the Whippeal. Let's see here. Yeah, the new commitment. Pitt did receive a new commitment. See if I can pull up his name here. Let's see. Here he is. Marcus Jennings, 3-star 2026 DB. He's on the verge of being a 4-star player as well. I think that if you're already a 3-star and a 5.7 at this point, I would expect him to be a 4-star athlete at some point if he continues to progress like we expect him to. I do believe he's a steal too. If you can get anybody out of Cass Tech in Detroit, Michigan, a number of players have come to Pitt there from there to Pitt. So most notable that comes to mind is Avonte Maddox, now in the National Football League. Terrence Enos came out of Cass Tech as well. But when you look across the country and across the nation, Cass Tech has put a number of players, double digits every year, into Power 4 football. They've done a really good job at that. That is Archie Collins' that's Archie Collins' territory, to say the least. And he's done one hell of a job, and he's starting to get really a number of good inroads up there. And we've had a number of guys through there, I think the past couple of years in a row now, which is a really good thing. They're tough, they're physical, and they're fast. If you're able to get someone out of Cass Tech where they're consistently winners every single year, you grab them. And the fact that he's almost a guy that's onto a 4-star, he's probably going to get up there. Also, I would expect that he's probably going to receive a lot more offers coming up here from Michigan and Michigan State. And we saw what happened with Dotson. You got to try to fight that kind of stuff off because now Dotson's involved. Previously, Dotson was committed to Pitt for a long time. If Michigan did not offer Dotson, he would have stayed. That was what I was told from a number of close sources to Dotson. It's just that's close to home. It's right there. You can't blame a kid for going home to play there. It's not like you went to Penn State or you went to Wisconsin or you went to Illinois, some shit in the Big Ten. You stay close to home. And that's that's either Michigan or Michigan State. I don't blame the kid for staying home. I love when guys from the Whitfield we're recruiting stay home. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. If Michigan never offers, he doesn't go there. But there's a number of across the board. Michigan and Pitt really recruit a lot of the same players from top to bottom. I mean, they do a lot better job recruiting offensive line than we do. But maybe we'll start taking that notion from them pretty soon. How's the offensive line coming along? I would say, Russ, thank you. Bayer. Russ Bayer, thank you. Lyndon Cooper, the center. He's back in there as well. Pitt fan 1993. Also, JJ, are you going to the spring game? Yes, I will be at the spring game. We'll be touching on that here in a second. The offensive line at this point, Russ, obviously Ryan Bayer had himself a good day at right tackle. He's really the leader of that group, and I think that's a good thing because Ryan's well respected on this football team. He's going to be a really big attribute going forward. I think the rest of the offensive line is trying to catch up. Lyndon Cooper was doing a good job on the onset in the middle of the offensive line, but you're still waiting on Jeff Percy to get there. This was his first practice, his first game or scrimmage with Pitt. Keith Gouveia sounds to be like he's starting at left guard. So Jeff Percy, Keith Gouveia at left guard. Those two guys on that side are having a little bit of issues here and there. They did have a number of good drives, 3 touchdowns during the day, but certainly not effective for the majority of the day. It was all defense. I mean, defense pretty much owned the day. But we'll really find out what this team looks like next Saturday when it's a second practice. I expect the offense to do a lot better job because now you have a lot of film on what you want to work for, especially with the offensive line up front. I think that'll be a really good thing for game tape to look at. But that first game, that first scrimmage so far this year was not a good one for the offense, to say the least. I mean, from top to bottom. But offensive line did not do really well up front. But I expect it to be a lot better in week 2 because of the new additions up front. And when you have guys like Jeff Percy going in there, Kendall Stanley, Keith Gouveia, and they're really working with the starters, you want to get them caught up to speed. So one side of your offensive line's not on the same page as the other. You got to be able to mesh that. And I think that will come over time, but you want it to be a little bit faster. I want to see major progress here coming up in really the second scrimmage. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that this offensive line is starting to come together. And I think when you have a leader like Ryan Bayer up front, I think he's going to do a hell of a job of making sure everyone's on point. But more importantly, film study. They're going to be in the film room looking at everything from top to bottom, and especially when you're looking at a defense like Pitt where it's very aggressive and you're running different blitz packages. You're able to have a lot of tape up front to figure out what's working and what's not. So I expect there to be a lot of changes going forward in terms of being able to make a lot of corrections because there's a lot of stuff to correct from really the first game of the year. But that's how it was last year. And then the second scrimmage of the year, it was totally different. The offense was really keying on a number of different things, and where the offense really took off in the second scrimmage. I expect the same thing to happen this year. If you had to pick one thing, eliminating injuries, getting back to guys. Matt Speck's got a question here too about Jon Gruden. We're going to get on that one here real quick because that's my next topic. If you had to pick one thing, eliminating injuries, getting key guys back, what's the one major thing in your opinion that has to change from last year for this team to get to 10-plus wins? Pitt fan 1993, great question, and I think it's pretty simple. The number one thing is that this team has got to stay healthy. That's number one, okay? And it's got to be eliminating injuries. We had so many injuries to the quarterback position, the running backs, offensive linemen, wide receivers. I mean, it was almost like playing Play-Doh at this point where you're just throwing stuff in there and hoping it all works. In the second half of the season, you really saw this offense not go up tempo like it was in the first 7 games of the year. You watched so much stuff slow down, and it just did not look like the same offense that we saw in the beginning of the year. Injuries need to be eliminated. Number two, and it starts up front. I think, and I've told people this before on here, everywhere else, the best teams in college football and the National Football League start up front, and that's offensive line and defensive line. The defensive line at the beginning of the year was absolutely horrible. Too many big plays, not stopping the run, guys not staying in their gaps, too many new guys. It was a lot of new guys coming from the portal, a lot of young guys. So you had a lot of no experience up front, and it really hurt Pitt within the first really 4 games of the year. Yeah, we were able to win those games, but it took a long time. We had to make major comebacks in those games. You don't want that to happen in the second year of Cade Bell. The defensive line needs to be better. The offensive line. Look at the Super Bowl. Prime example. Patrick Mahomes couldn't do anything because why? He didn't have any protection. He had no time to throw. The same thing goes for Eli Holstein. I think there's many ways he can be better in terms of there's time for him to throw. There's a number of throws that he missed last year. He's certainly not absolved for mistakes. But at the same time, though, he had a number of different injuries because there was not a lot of protection. The guy was getting hit at a high rate last year. That cannot happen. The offensive line needs to understand its assignment. And schematically, as coaches, Coach Darveau, Coach Bell, they need to be on the same page coaching these guys to understand the scheme, the schematics of what they're trying to achieve, but making sure they're hitting the right assignments. No missed blocks, no guys that are untouched. There should never be a guy that's untouched. You should be able to know and point out to who is your guy, especially, too, when you're looking at schematically, when you're starting now, when you're all there in spring, summer, and now in the fall. It's that simple. They should be able to get that down and make sure that they're correcting that. The offensive line, the difference from Pitt winning 7 games to 10 games is going to be straight up the offensive line. Right now, the offensive line is the key to it all. It has got to stay healthy. Luckily, this year, we do have more depth up front. You're probably going to have Jeff Percy at left tackle, Keith Govea at left guard, Lyndon Cooper at center, right guard being B.J. Williams, and then right tackle being Ryan Bayer. Potentially Jeff Percy may switch out with Kendall Stanley, or Kendall Stanley moves to the right side. We'll see how that competition goes out through spring and fall. And then the backups, you still have Jackson Brown. You have Isaiah Montgomery, 2 guys who I think they're going to be damn good football players up front. Jackson Brown, a legacy name. And then Isaiah Montgomery, guys who had very valuable starts last year and experience they didn't have the previous year. So that's 7 guys right there. I think that Ty Ray has certainly made himself well known at the guard position. Ty Ray will compete at left guard and right guard. That's 8 guys right there. Terrence Enos can be that guy at tackle as well. That's 9 guys right there. So you're really, and then Caleb Holmes is another guy. So you really got 9 guys that can really rotate in because they had a lot of experience and a lot of guys play last year. That was a major factor. Now as coaches, they need to develop that talent. It's there. The talent's there. They need to coach it. And the offensive line has to stay healthy, and they need to play at a high level. They have to protect the quarterback. If you can't protect the quarterback and they have 2 seconds to throw, then you're up shit creek. You're not going to win very many games. It's that simple. You can have an uber-talented quarterback. It doesn't matter. If they don't have time to throw the ball downfield, you're done. Or get the guy off the ball. One thing that was a major disappointment last year that I thought there was no reason for is there's got to be push off the line as well. They got to get guys 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards off the line of scrimmage. Move your man. It can't be a stalemate at the line of scrimmage where we get 1, maybe 2 yards. That stuff's got to stop. Get aggressive. But one thing that's noticeable this year that I've been told is that the offensive line is in tremendous shape. Guys have lost weight. Guys have been a lot more muscle than fat on these guys. I think that's a major factor that can really help them out. But it has to be consistent. They have to get it down this year. No reason not to. The talent's there. It needs to be developed. Let's see here. Pitman Zach, I thought Bonsi moved to linebacker. Is he a tweener? He's just, in my opinion, brother, from everything I've heard, he's too small to play linebacker. I think he can have a possibility to play there. He moved to linebacker to learn the front side of the defense first at the linebacker position, but he's a true safety, and he's a guy that I think he'll play a lot this year, but he'll be playing at the safety position. To Matt Speck, the Gruden video was sick. Chris Dantas, the equipment staff, killed it as usual. Matt, couldn't agree more. And if you haven't seen it yet, actually, we'll bring it up here because I want to show you guys the video. Just tremendous from top to bottom. I mean, you got to love it. Let me see it on here. Pull up the video and share my screen with you guys. Let's see here. Where is it? All right, here it is. All right. We'll dive into it here real quick. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen with you guys here. Take this off. Share my screen. And again, a tremendous video, to say the least. I mean, this is beautiful marketing for Pitt. I've been asking for this. You guys probably saw my tweet last week. I've been calling for this. I thought this was a no-brainer. Let's see here. Obviously here, Coach Narduzzi and Pitt Football sent over one of the craziest boxes we've ever gotten. And I'm truly speechless. What a historic football program with some incredible alumni. Brings me back to my time coaching the receivers back in the Steel City. Thank you, Panthers. This is a great, just right here. Sent over one of the craziest boxes we've ever gotten. I'm truly speechless. Dive into this if you guys have not seen it yet.
The Pitt Panthers, Jimbo. This is a
truly awesome video here. Take a little quick listen here.
Real exciting day. A box from the University of Pittsburgh, the Pitt Panthers. I used to coach for the Pitt Panthers way back in the day. Paul Hackett was the head coach. Little Jon Gruden. We even had Marvin Lewis on that staff. What a staff. Pitt Panthers. This is where Johnny Majors won a national title with Tony Dorsett. This is where Dan Marino played college football. Aaron Donald, Larry Fitzgerald. This is Rick Grimes' hat right here. I got a new Walking Dead hat. I got it in the mail. And I also got this Walking Dead. I don't know what kind of hat this is, but it's got me feeling nicey. As I get this freaking box open. The Pitt Panthers, Jimbo Covert, offensive lineman Bill Fraley, total badass. You got Pat Narduzzi, the head coach of the Panthers. Thank you, Coach, for sending this box. This is awesome. This is Pitt football right here. This is where Mike Ditka went to college. This is where Chris Dolman, the gold jacket defensive end of the Vikings, went. What is this? It's a box. Pitt box.
Tremendous, just tremendous marketing here.
It's got to be.
I mean, Pitt does a great job with all their stuff. This looks incredible.
This is.
I would love this polo, by the way.
Oh, man. This is unbelievable. This is like DeMar Hamlin. Buffalo Bills would wear this. You know what? Think about the greatest Pitt Panther corner, Darrelle Revis, wearing this. You know what kind of alumni they have it? What is this? You know what kind of alumni they have at Pitt? Hugh Green and Ricky. This is a belt. This is a Pitt Panther belt. Have you ever seen a Pitt Panther belt? I haven't. Freaking Coach Narduzzi. Holy cow. A real Pitt Panther helmet. This is freaking insane. Unbelievable. I love their uniforms.
Everyone loves Pitt's uniform, man. It's the first thing. Pitt's uniforms now, man. Second to nobody.
Look at this. Pitt Panther gloves. Look at that. You can throw. You got to be kidding. This is old school Pitt Panther. This looks like Johnny Majors wore. Jackie Sherrill. This is where Curtis Martin and the New York Jets went.
Curtis Martin, baby.
That is sweet.
It's a nice jacket, isn't it? Clean. Damn. This might be the best box we've ever got. I coached at Pitt. I never had gear like this. Some kind of shoes are in here. Wish I had 4 hands. That's a pull-out box. I thought my wife had a lot of shoes.
These shoes are sick.
Look at these, man. Are you serious? This is the greatest box ever. I did not know Pitt had gear like this. When we won our Super Bowl in 2002, Jeff Christie was my center from Pitt. He never had shoes like this.
Those are sick.
God dang. No wonder they got so much speed. There's other boxes. God. Can you imagine this? Coach Narduzzi? This is a doozy. Holy shit.
It's like the entire room they just sent to Jon Gruden.
Let's try to. There's a letter in here from Coach Narduzzi. He says, Coach Gruden, on behalf of the University of Pittsburgh football program, please accept this box of Panther gear. May you wear it with great pride and the best of health. We want to make some of you remember your time in the Steel City when you were at Pitt as the wide receiver coach. He's a hell of a coach and a badass defensive coach as well, as you all know. And I tell you,
There's more boxes.
listen, I'm never going to.
That's like 6 boxes already. I mean, that was absolutely ridiculous.
Visors, hats.
More shirts. The Pitt
This is really a great day.
Ironworks. I gotta get a shirt
This
like
is a
that
great
too.
tradition, a great program, and a great day.
Ooh.
That's just a big deal, isn't it? Let's go Pitt, baby. Thank you so much, Coach. Man, I'm honored. I'm going to go wear some of this. I'm going to go try some on. You know, you can throw the ball.
You love to see it though. And guys, right there, that's a prime. I mean, that's easy marketing right there, man. Let's get back over to here. Whoop. Easy marketing right there. And you guys probably saw my tweet. Let me see if I can find it actually on here. Let's see here. If I go into my tweets here, I think, how many days ago was this? It wasn't even that long ago. Let me see here. Let me see. What would I have typed here? Probably tag Pitt Football on it. So Pitt. Let's see if I can find it here. Da, 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 da. Let me see. I can't find it here. That's a shame. I know I sent something out. He guys probably saw it. Oh, I wish I had it. It's somewhere in here. Oh, well, can't find it. But I put out a tweet, I want to say maybe a week ago, saying that Pitt should definitely send a box. I mean, this is easy marketing. They have so many different people. You know, Jon Gruden in that video alone, I mean, look at the numbers it's putting up. Let's see. Do. Oh, also 2 guys, Davion Pritchard and Josh Gurrier. 2 more guys in my notes here that did a really good job. And someone just reminded me of the same exact thing. Those are 2 good guys that did a really good job so far. So far, that video for Jon Gruden has 570,000 views. I mean, that's easy numbers across the board. 570,000 views. Pretty simple that, and think about who's following Jon Gruden, a number of different recruits, different players, NFL guys, potential recruits. I mean, that's easy exposure to across the board. But also, it's not a bad thing to send a guy like him something like that. He even coached at Pitt. That's a pro, and that's a pro for Pitt too. Obviously, a wide receiver coach at Pitt. The amount of coaches that are legendary in the National Football League and in college. I mean, heck, Dan Lanning coached at Pitt at one point. Mike Norvell coached at Pitt at one point. Jon Gruden, Marvin Lewis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of guys who went on to be successful coaches, coached at Pitt, which is pretty special to say the least. So, Matt, very good question. I agree that Gruden video was pretty sick. Russ Bayer, my man, Lyndon Cooper, yes. Also, JJ, you going to the spring game? Yes. The spring game, April 12th, 1 o'clock. I'll be going through all the tailgates before the game starts. There's also an event. I think that Pitt is hosting. I'll be going to that as well before the game, probably like an hour or two before the game. I'll probably be going to that one too. Talked about that one. It sucks we couldn't keep Dotson. I feel like he could have played earlier, probably. Joey, I think he would have played as a freshman, in my opinion. I think he was that good. But that's one you really just can't complain about. There's nothing, not even money could have saved that. I mean, that was a childhood dream of his, from numerous people that were surrounding his family, talked about wanting to play at Michigan. Now, like anybody else, things can change on a dime. If he's not playing there in 2 years, he's having a hard time getting on the field. Don't be shocked if he hits the portal. And that's just that's the truth around that. Do you think the O-line issues you mentioned have much to do with ability as coaching and guys at OT that can physically execute the Power 4 level? I mean, I can tell you this right now. They got guys who can play at the Power 4 level. I certainly wouldn't use that as an excuse. I think they need to develop the talent. I think schematically, I had some issues with what Cade Bell was running up front last year. A lot of pin pull action where you're pulling the guard, you're pulling the right guard going to the left hand side, and then you have a small guy like Raphael Poppy Williams cracking down on a defensive end that's 230, 240 pounds. You can't do that at this level. I think schematically they have to be a lot better. I think there's some stuff that they do blocking wise that just, a lot of it has to get cleaned up. I think there's a lot of movement up front that they do to be very disguised. It certainly works on a number of different plays. I mean, there were certainly blocking schemes last year that Cade Bell had a lot of success with, and I think he did a really good job with. But there's a number of different areas where sometimes it gets too complicated. You got to keep it straight to the point, figure out where these guys are going, learn the offense. And obviously, when you're starting 2 to 3 new guys up front, can you really complain? For me, instance, too, I'm complaining a little bit about saying, hey, I want the second practice, I want to see more. At the same time, though, realistically, it was the first game for all 3 of those new guys. So what does it truly look like? Because the right side, for what I was told, with Ryan Bayer and B.J. Williams, looked good. Keith Guvia and Jeff Percy and Kendall Stanley on the left-hand side were having a little bit of issues. Well, those are new guys. They're new to that offense. They're certainly being able to have a lot of conversations up front. You got to gel that stuff together. The offensive line is completely different than any other position. At defensive line, you can rotate in 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. No big deal. They're all going to be on the same page. Offensive line is truly an art, and you have to be able to gel as a unit because you all have to be on the same point. If one guy messes up, the entire offensive play is gone. It's that simple. Unless you have a freakish play where they're able to get out quicker than what they thought, the play's gone. I'm not going to complain and harp too much on it. I know I am kind of right now. I'm kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. I want to see it get better, but it's the first scrimmage. If we hear in the second scrimmage and the third scrimmage that there's issues, or I guess technically the second scrimmage and then the spring game, then we'll have a conversation. The spring game, for instance, if they're I think from what I was told, they're going to do a draft again. So I won't take too much from the spring game because, one, they're going to divvy up the offensive lines, the defensive lines, 1s and 2s. Everybody's going to be involved. But if we don't hear, because I think, let me see here, their game is the 12th. So what? There should be this week's practice, the 12th, the 28th. and then the 29th and the 5th. So they're going to have 2 more scrimmages. If we don't hear in the second and third scrimmages that there were improvements, then I'm going to start to bitch. I'm going to start to really complain and say, hey, what the hell is going on? But that second and third one, they should have repetitions down where they're consistently doing something positive. And we should see progression. Like last year, the second scrimmage last year in the spring, the offense just cleared it. They were running everything, and they were at the top of the line and top of the game. And you saw guys like Branson Taylor really step up. Lyndon Cooper developed into him to where he was understanding what was the offense, what they were looking for. He was a new guy. Ryan Bayer did a really good job last year in the second scrimmage. You want to see that in the second and third scrimmage. If we don't see that, then I'm going to have a cause for concern because that should be coached up. That's a coaching problem because these guys can play at this level because they were recruited by numerous P4 programs. Ryan Bayer, BJ Williams, those are guys that were contacted in the offseason to go to another Power 4 program. It's a fact. Jeff Percy was at a Power 4 program. He hit the portal. Power 4 programs called him. Kendall Stanley, Power 4 programs called him. Keith Cuvia, Power 4 programs called him. Virginia Tech was on the line, trying hard to get him. Kendall Stanley, Miami, Michigan State. Michigan State really pushed at the end of the wire. These guys are all Power 4 guys. So I certainly don't have the excuse that they're just not Power 4 guys. I think that's bullshit. I wouldn't use that excuse. I think it comes down to understanding the offense, needing time together to gel as an offensive line. This doesn't happen overnight. You have multiple new guys up front. It has to happen over time. Allow these guys to gel. You want to see progression from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2, to scrimmage 2 to scrimmage 3. And then you go into off-season OTAs, summer OTAs, and then by the fall, you should know exactly who your offensive line is going to be. And if you bring in an offensive lineman that you think that can compete and start, that should be the only question mark. Besides that, spring right now, they're figuring out who and where their pieces are. They're probably throwing guys in and out of that first offensive line. That's where they're at this point. Yeah, 100%. I can't blame him. If I was from Michigan and got offered them, it's hard to pass. I agree, Joey. But good question, Will. Good question, Joey. Pitt fan 1993. Again, good questions there. Let's see, guys. We're at the 52-minute mark. All right. I don't see any. We kind of really hit on all the topics at this point. Man, an hour goes fast. You guys ask a lot of good questions, and it gets me on a rant plus the topics ready to start the show. It certainly helps. I don't see any super chats. We may end the show right now. But to solidify it, the offense did not have a good day. The defense did have a good day. Davion Pritchard, Josh Gurrier, Kyle Lewis, Cruz Brookins, Braylon Lovelace. They all had great. Javon McIntyre. They all had great days on the defense. Defensive line. Blaine Spires had a good day. Joey Zielinski had a good day. Jimmy Scott had a good day. And then obviously, too, in the defensive tackle room I was hearing is that Francis Breu, Sean Fitzsimmons, and Nick James had a hell of a day, too. Keep that up. We want to see the defense continue to move forward. But next Sunday when we're sitting here, I want to hear how much better what's it called? How much better is the offense? It's that simple. The offensive line is the key moving forward. It has to be better. It has to be better. It needs to protect Eli Holstein. He has to stay healthy. I'm happy that Julian Duggar's here. I think he's a great quarterback, too, a guy who can compete and play at this level. He proved that. But I don't want to be going back and forth again this year. I want a guy that solidifies himself as quarterback 1, which is Eli Holstein, and we keep him in there, and we keep him standing upright. Got to protect the quarterback, and you have to be able to move people off the ball. Has to be better. Straight up. No questions asked. The offensive line is the key from Pitt winning 7 games or 10 games, which is a same thing as all other years. The offensive line. And under Pat Narduzzi, I would agree with a lot of people in saying this. The offensive line recruiting has just not been good under Narduzzi. It has not. And for a long period of time there, neither was the wide receiver recruiting. Now, his defensive recruiting has been off the map. He's done a hell of a job with DBs, linebackers, especially now with Ryan Manilak these past 3 years. Ryan Manilak, defensive line's been through the roof, obviously. I mean, we led the pressures and sacks in the ACC for 5 consecutive years under Charlie Partridge. We'll see what that looks like under Tim Dowst in year 2. But it's time for the offense to pick it up. Pitt paid Cade Bell to keep him here because if we didn't want to go through a whole nother new scheme, that would have been horrible for Pitt. I agree with paying him. It was important. It has to be here. Marlon Barnes is leaving the program. I'm going to be honest. I don't know who Marlon Barnes is. Help me out with that one. Thanks for the weekly updates. Hail to Pitt. Will, thank you, sir, so much for the super chat. As always, it's always good, my man, especially, too, bringing all this up and getting to talk about a lot of this stuff. And, again, I'm just happy spring football's here. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the show. I'm going to be ranking the top 10 quarterbacks in the ACC going into this year so far as we sit here in the spring. We'll be talking about Pitt's opponents coming up, what the schedule looks like, where Pitt needs to improve in a number of different levels. Basketball player, he was a bench piece this year. Oh, yeah, he was a bench piece, yeah. Which also, that leads me on to a number of different things, too. Obviously, that we cover football here, but from numerous things I've heard about, it sounds like Pitt basketball will have some new assistant coaches, is what I've been told. But here are a number of different things where Alan Green is really going to change things up, which I think is a good thing. I think there'll be a number of great resources with revenue sharing and NIL. If you guys didn't see that as well, Alliance 412 partnered. If I can find it here, and I'll share my screen with you guys again. Let me see here. Or was it John Pelusi that tweeted? I think it might have been John. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. So I'm going to pull this up here real quick. This was a really good one here for Pitt. Let me see. Share my screen real quick here. Share screen. Share. This is a massive partnership, and I'm going to show it to you guys here now. It's up on the screen. This is a massive partnership. Attention, Pitt fans and alumni. Big news. NOCAP Revenue Solutions, a division of NOCAP Sports, is partnering with Alliance 412 to deliver sustainable revenue for Pitt athletics. And we've talked about revenue being the main factor going forward for Pitt, and it has to be the main factor. It's the most important thing, and Pitt needs to be better at it. Revenue for Pitt athletics at no cost to your business. Learn more and have significant impact on Pitt's NIL efforts. Now, revenue sharing is capped at 20.5. But true, this NIL work right here, this can go to wherever it wants. So Pitt can certainly go over the $20.5 million, which I expected to. This is a major revenue solutions partnership announcement. This is a massive one. A really big influence on this is former Pitt football player Adam Gunn. He is the chief operating officer, I believe, at this organization. They've done a really good job overall. They're well known. They work with a number of different institutions. When I go through it here, let me see. Here it is right here. They do a lot of stuff here. Let me see. GM of NIL Solutions, account manager. Here he is. Perfect. Officially welcoming, this was on January 8th of this year, welcoming Adam Gunn to the NOCAP sports team. Adam has extensive experience in building out and managing high-performing teams. Most recently, a leader at Stryker. Adam is joining NOCAP as Chief Operating Officer of Revenue Solutions to help universities and collectives unlock new sustainable revenue and prepare for the future of college sports. Adam Gunn is a tremendous asset to this organization here, but as a former Pitt man, as a true Pitt man, a former Pitt football player, always he will forever be a Pitt man. will be a major factor for Pitt. And I don't think it's being talked about enough, to be quite frank with you. I think this is a massive, massive deal for Alliance 412. It's a massive deal for the University of Pittsburgh for sustainable revenue. This is going to help Pitt on top of revenue sharing. And again, I told you this was before, 80 to 85% of the revenue will go to football. 10 to 15% will go to basketball, and then the remaining, whatever's in between there, whether it's that 5 to 10% or maybe 5%, will go to Pitt women's volleyball. Those are really your three buckets of what really creates revenue at the University of Pittsburgh. But football is the main factor. Turns on the lights anywhere across the board. That's how it is. Conference realignment is involved with it, and turning the lights on at Pitt and keeping things above water is truly important. It's that simple. It's a major factor. Every decision is based around football, guys, whether the people like it or not. I saw a number of personalities going 93.7 The Fan, which is an absolute joke that's Pitt's, what's it called? Pitt Sports Radio or whatever it is, their flagship station. I think that's an absolute joke. I think they do a horrible job covering Pitt. I think they do a horrible job promoting Pitt. I mean, all they do is talk about Kenny Pickett and bash Kenny Pickett. It's like they need that to keep the lights on at at 93.7 The Fan. They're losing a lot of talent over there. I get obviously Doran and Crowley in the morning, but after that, I really don't understand anything else there. There's a lot of question marks in terms of talent there and what they do for Pitt. I don't know what they do. I think Pitt should go in another direction and create their own show out of the Peterson Event Center and have it on a station. That's just kind of my thing. That's what I think. But I'm not in charge of those decisions, so it's not my job. But this was a major factor that was talked about. I don't think they got a lot of coverage from really anybody. Adam Gunn, again, former Pitt football player, now chief operating officer, helps collectives unlock new sustainable revenue and prepare for the future of college sports. This is a massive factor from everything I've been told from behind the scenes. Guys, it's a massive deal. I mean, that is a major, major, major deal to where Pitt has an opportunity to really make a lot of money and produce revenue and really compete at the highest level, because these next 5 or 6 years in college athletics, Pitt needs to win football games. It's got to be straight up. Got to win football games. And I personally think that Jeff Capel's got another year under his belt. You got to see a win after that. Hopefully he wins big next year. And then if he does go back to being bad again in like 2027 or 2028, I'd imagine Pitt will let go of him. I personally do not think that Jeff Capel, I think he's a great guy, a great individual. People love him, and there's a reason why he's a great individual. But I think he's a very bad coach, and I think that's really been shown over the last 7 years. He's done a really bad job. He's had 2 really good years where he had 6, really 6-year seniors. I mean, that kind of can help you out, but he's certainly on the hot seat moving forward. But this Alliance 412 and NOCAP Revenue Solutions, this is a massive partnership that will help Pitt create revenue, because we need revenue, guys. To compete at the highest level, we need money. It's that simple. All right, let's see what we got here. Very cool. Saw the email from Alliance 412 about this last week. We'll be interested to see how it plays out. Will, I couldn't agree more. And again, I appreciate Will for the super chat. As always, thank you so much. I hope we can keep low. I know he got a lot of hate, but he's really a talented player. We'll see if we can keep him. I wouldn't be shocked if he heads, from what my understanding is, I wouldn't be shocked if he heads to Miami. I think he's got whatever his family member that's now the head basketball coach at Miami. We'll see if he goes down there or not. He was certainly not good down the stretch. I mean, but then again, I think that might have to do something with playmaking and coaching. So we'll be able to watch that and see if that improves or not. All right, guys. I don't see any more super chats. So, guys, as always, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Super chats, Will, Marlon Barnes, Joey, Adam. Who else we got in here? Pitman Zach, Pitt Fan 1983, Russ Bayer, Matt Speck. Across the board, Jonathan Lewis, WRW Pitt. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast and helping the show and the super chats, everything across the board. Guys, this has been another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. And of course, As always and forever, hail to Pitt and hail to the ACC. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, like the video for all your ACC, Pitt football, and conference realignment news. Make sure you guys give me a follow here and share the show on Twitter, Facebook, everything. Appreciate you guys always, as now and forever. Hail to Pitt and hail to the ACC. I'll see you next time.